Echo, Akali, and Sylas buffs all in the same patch, while we've got a pretty substantial nerf to Duskblade as well. Welcome back everyone to the 13.16 solo queue tier list. My name is Sean, and I'll be on the mic for this one while Dan is away. Now, as always, we're going to be running down every single change and providing you guys with a complete update on the solo queue meta, thanks to the help of our challenger players and analyzing the most recent data. But before we get into it, be sure to check out SkillCapped if you truly want to get better at League of Legends. We're the only service that offers a money-back guarantee if you don't climb at least 5 divisions while actively using our service. We do this because our service really does work, and if it doesn't work for you, you shouldn't pay. Learn more at the end of this video or click the link in the description below. Let's start the video off by taking a look at all the item changes and discussing how impactful they're going to be. Axiom Arc is first up, and it's having its flat ultimate cooldown refund increased from 5 to 10%. Now, Axiom actually hasn't been a terrible pickup on select few assassins in previous patches like Talon, Qiyana, Nocturne, and Kayn, so with this buff, the item definitely has a shot at becoming a staple purchase, and it's still going to remain quite niche, but definitely watch out for it on those champions that we just mentioned. A very situational lethality pickup being Serpent's Fang is going to be buffed for 13.16 with its lethality going from 12 to 15. Now, change doesn't really mean too much, as Serpents will remain an item that you'll only purchase when the enemy comp has massive shielding. Riot's decided to throw a bone to Umbral Glaive, as well as increasing its lethality from 10 to 13. Now, nothing meta-shifting here, but a change that will help lessen the blow of the Duskblade nerf for someone like Pyke. Senna is the only other champ who builds Umbral consistently, and she's going to see a small uptick in power as a result. Another buff to a lethality item in next in line is Prowler's Claw. Cooldown of its passive is dropping from 10 to 5 seconds. The bonus AD ratio is going up as well, from 45 to 55% for melee and from 30 to 35% for ranged. Change is nice, but when you take into account that Duskblade is being nerfed and many champs who build Prowlers also build Duskblade, in the grand scheme of things, we aren't really going to see a big power boost to assassins this patch. And speaking of Duskblade, its missing health damage from passive is being lowered from 20 to 18%. Cooldown on the passive, however, is being increased from 10 seconds all the way up to 30 seconds. This is a pretty massive nerf, and it's definitely going to shake up what lethality mythics are prioritized for 13.16. A few champs whose strength in meta have been directly correlated to the power of Duskblade, and we'll see the biggest hit to their strength this patch include Qiyana, Kha'Zix, Zed, Aatrox, Rengar, and Hecarim. For someone like Samira, she'll definitely look to prioritize Infinity Edge more often now, and the Fury has already been doing great with Eclipse, so she's fine with dropping Duskblade. Moving on to having a look at the direct changes to top lane, Wukong will be issued a few buffs. Mana regen growth is being increased from 0.65 to 0.8. Q mana cost is being sliced in half, going from 40 down to 20. W mana cost is also being reduced from 80, scaling to 40, to 60, scaling to 40. Q mana cost buff is definitely going to be the one to watch, as it's an ability you can spam out quite often in lane, so 50% less mana is great. Not changes that will suddenly turn Wukong to some super powerful top lane champ, but we have him rated as a respectable A tier pick for 13.16. No other direct changes that primarily influence top lane for this patch, so let's dive right into the tier list. OP tier is going to be locked down by 3 champions, as Malphite, Camille, and Illaoi are on a level above everyone else. We've actually got new full game commentaries for all 3 OP tier champs just uploaded to our website to help you guys out. With Duskblade nerfed, this will have a negative influence on the power level of Aatrox, so we'll be dropping him out of S tier. Duskblade has been heavily outperforming Eclipse and Gore Drinker as Aatrox's mythic, so even if he goes back to building either of those, he's still going to be weaker overall. A few of the best top lane bans due to their presence and strength in meta include Fiora, Malphite, and Camille. To stomp your way out of low elo the fastest, look into adding one of Malphite, Mundo, or Garen to your champion pool. One of the biggest winners, buffed in 3 separate ways for 13.16, is going to be Echo. Q damage is increased by 10 at all ranks, going from 60 scaling to 120 to 70 scaling to 130. Q slow is up as well, going from 32 scaling to 60% to 40 scaling to 60%. Quite the big buff to Echo's W shield too, with it being increased by 30 at all ranks, going from 70 scaling to 150 up to 100 scaling to 180. Considering Echo has been a pretty solid jungle pickup in recent patches, these buffs definitely seem a bit overkill, and we have Echo rated as a very strong S tier option. We're going to be keeping a close eye on Echo throughout the patch because a push into OP tier could be warranted as well. Another round of Rek'Sai nerfs are on the way as Riot has been slowly chopping away at the champ for the past few patches now. This time, it's her unburrowed Q damage that's being targeted, going from 21 scaling to 45 plus 50% bonus AD to 34 scaling to 50% total AD. Riot has stated this will be a nerf up until level 13, so Rek'Sai's early game is being targeted here. As you can see in the background clip though, with all 3 Q charges used, it's only a 3 damage drop-off at level 3, which seems quite insignificant. And we don't expect this change to push Rek'Sai out of meta and will only be moving her from OP into S. One jungler who's been absolutely smashing low elo and being nerfed as a result is Shyvana. W damage per second is being nerfed, going from 20 scaling to 70 to 20 scaling to 60. W bonus AD ratio is down as well, from 30 to 20%. The on-hit magic damage is also being lowered, going from 5 scaling to 17.5 to 5 scaling to 13. Bonus AD ratio is lowered as well, from 7.5 to 5%. Nerfs that directly target the scaling power of Shyvana, which is a big reason to why she thrives so much in low elo, and as a result of these nerfs, we're going to be shifting Shyvana down 1 tier, going from S into A. The jungle meta is going to be on the move for 13.16 as we take a look at the tier list, with Rek'Sai dropping down due to the direct nerfs and Kha'Zix being negatively affected by the Duskblade changes. We have a new look to the jungle OP tier. Evelynn and Jarvan had been just a cut below Ka and Rek'Sai in recent patches. So with how everyone is unfolded, it's their time to move up. Our challenger jungler, Japanese import, just uploaded a new full game commentary to our website on Evelynn, so definitely check it out if you're looking to pick her up. A bunch of Duskblade users are being moved down the tier list though for this patch, with Kha'Zix, Kayn, and Rengar each dropping a tier. Duskblade had been outperforming all other lethality mythics on all 3 champs, so it's inevitable that they're going to be seeing a decline in strength. A few junglers well worth a ban for 13.16 include Evelynn, Kha'Zix, and Graves. Rammus, Shyvana, and Nocturne are 3 of the best junglers to spam for low elo. With Worlds on the horizon, no surprise to see a bunch of flashy mid-lane champs buffed for this patch, and first up, it's Akali. Q energy cost is being reduced from 130 scaling to 70 to 110 scaling to 70. Now pay attention to the before and after clips here, as something really big as a result of this energy buff is that you can now Q once, and then as soon as your Q comes back off cooldown, you can Q again. Prior to this buff, you'd have to wait multiple seconds to recast Q due to not having enough energy even though it was off cooldown. So an early game buff only with this one, but that's where Akali can thrive, so Akali mains definitely going to take this. Damage on Q is being increased as well, going from 40 scaling to 140 to 45 scaling to 145. The energy buff is without question the big one here, and we're going to see Akali gaining a sizable amount of power as a result, so we're going to be shifting her into an A tier slot. Just one simple buff being issued to Sylas this patch. Base mana is going to be increased, going from 310 up to 400. 90 mana increase here. It's nothing to scoff at. And since Sylas has always been a champion who can run into mana issues early in lane, this is a great buff. Priority on Sylas will definitely rise for 13.16, however, and it's hard to say exactly how impactful this buff is really going to be. We don't see a ton of mana buffs like this. So for now, Sylas finds a spot in our mid lane A tier, but a push into S could be warranted for our mid-patch update. If you're looking to take advantage of these Sylas buffs, our Master in Minutes course for the champ will definitely help you out tremendously. Naafiri has turned into one of the most broken champions in the game shortly after her release, so a few nerfs are definitely going to be headed her way here. Base armor is down from 32 to 30, attack damage drops from 57 to 55, base attack speed is down as well, going from 0.688 to 0.633. All things considered, these seem like pretty light nerfs to Naafiri. The base armor nerf won't even matter in a large chunk of her mid lane matchups when against magic damage opponents. AD dropping by 2 is the one that's going to hurt the most, but Even then, it's likely only going to result in a very minor power shift. Win rate may end up dropping a decent amount at the very start of the patch, while players continue building the nerfed Duskblade, but once more catch on to the power of Eclipse, we really can't see Naafiri dropping out of meta here. Now, with all that said, we're going to be leaving Naafiri in the OP tier for the start of 13.16. A champion who has more traditionally been played in the bot lane, but has seen a surge as a mid laner in recent patches, is Tristana. So much that Riot has decided to issue some changes that look to nerf mid Trist, while keeping bot lane Trist in check here. Base health is going from 670 down to 640. Magic resist is dropping from 30 to 28. Armor, however, is going to go up from 26 to 30, while armor scaling is going to go up from 4.2 to 4.5. Losing that health early on is definitely going to hurt Trist's ability to play hyper aggro. Now, it's not too crazy, but it's enough to result in the champion falling one tier, going from S into A. So, breaking down the complete mid lane tier list, we have a few adjustments for 13.16. We're going to be giving Xerath the bump from S into OP for this patch due to Naafiri no longer being the standalone most broken champ, and also due to those Duskblade nerfs. Assassins have always been the class of champs Xerath has struggled into the most, so with Duskblade taking a hit, it's really nice for him along with all the other mages. Watch out for Echo this patch as potentially one of the more sleeper mid lane picks. Champ has not been in meta as a mid laner for a while, but that buff to Q can do wonders for his ability to farm and shove waves. We're going to have to see if the Q buff is enough to actually alter the breakpoints to when Echo can one-shot the back wave, because if he can now much earlier, this buff could be even bigger than most expect. With Qiyana being a champion who's heavily relied on the power of Duskblade in recent patches, we're going to be pushing her down into A tier due to those Duskblade nerfs. A couple of the best mid lane bans for 13.16 are Zed, Naafiri, and Fizz. Malzahar, Aurelion Sol, and Annie are who we have rated as three of the best mids to climb low elo very quickly. Moving on to ADC, we've got a few champions seeing buffs this patch, and first up, it's Lucian. Passive flat physical damage is going to be increased from 10 to 15. Not a buff we see considerably increasing Lucian's power level for solo queue, so he's going to remain in the ADC B tier. Caitlyn is the second ADC buffed for this patch, with her passive attacks per headshot being lowered from 6 to 5. Similar to the Lucian buff, we just can't see this being enough to push Caitlyn back into the ADC meta, so she'll continue to be rated as a B tier pick. Very few moving parts on the ADC tier list for 13.16, as Ashe and Misfortune are on top once again. The only adjustment we're going to be making is moving Samira down into the ADC B tier. Nerfs to Duskblade are going to negatively impact the champion, and Infinity Edge has not been performing on the same level, so even if players move over to building IE, we expect Samira to be in a net weaker spot for 13.16. If you guys really want some easy elo in the bot lane right now, then add a mage like Karthus, Ziggs, or Seraphine to your champion pool. Ziggs especially is being picked back up by pro players as of recent and is extremely powerful for solo queue as well. Ever since Lost Chapter had its cost reduced, even mages get to spike earlier and just dominate the traditional ADCs in lane. A few of the most optimal bot lane bans for the current meta include Kai'Sa, Ashe, and Ezreal. Sivir, Misfortune, and Ashe are three of the best ADCs to play for low elo. Enchanters have been down in the dumps in recent patches, so Riot's going to be looking to slowly buff them back up in 13.16. Milio is first up, as his Q-based damage is being increased from 90 scaling to 270 to 80 scaling 320. AP ratio is up as well, from 90 to 120%. E-base shield is going from 60 scaling to 140 to 60 scaling to 160. The AP ratio on E-shield is up too, from 25 to 30%. QAP ratio going up by 30% honestly is a pretty interesting one, as this could open up the possibility for more offensive builds. Now, something worth noting about the Q change though is that it's generally the spell that Milio players max out last, so don't be fooled by the damage going up by 50 at max rank. We could see a shift to where players start maxing Q out second, but even then you'd need to be level 13 for the buff to fully kick in. A lot of games you're not even reaching that level on a support champion, and overall the buffs may seem a bit bit more impactful than they actually are, and we don't see Milio breaking back into meta as a result. We're going to be leaving Milio in the support B tier for 13.16. Riot is taking a very similar approach with Lulu as we just saw with Milio, buffing the scaling power of the champion only. Health per level is going from 88 up to 92. Q damage AP ratio is seeing a boost from 40 to 50%. E damage AP ratio is up as well from 40 to 50%. Changes, they're pretty negligible for support Lulu, as you're just not able to consistently stack a ton of AP so that these buffs are impactful. Now, with that said, we have had Lulu down in the support C tier for a while now, and with these changes, she'll at least be an average B tier support pickup. Karma is the third and final Enchanter support buffed for 13.16. Following trends with the previous changes, it's more AP ratio buffs. Karma Q AP ratio is going from 40 to 50%. Mantra Q detonation damage ratio is being increased as well from 60 to 70%. R cooldown sees a small buff too, going from 40 scaling to 34 seconds to 40 scaling to 31 seconds. Solo lane Karma will undoubtedly benefit more from these buffs, as it's just not possible for Karma to stack a ton of AP in the support role so that the changes are overly significant. Karma will be in a slightly better spot than Lulu and Milio for 13.16 and be placed in our support A tier. Despite his very low presence in solo queue, support Shaco is being nerfed for 13.16. Base mana regen is going down from 7.15 to 6. W mana cost is being altered, going from 50 scaling to 70 at all ranks. 20 extra mana on W at rank 1 is definitely going to hurt, as being able to spam out boxes is the main reason as to why Shaco's support can work in the first place. A tier is where you're going to find Shaco on the support tier list for 13.16. Not a lot of meaningful action down in the support role this patch, as the OP tier will continue to consist of Rel, Rakan, and Zyra. Despite all these Enchanter buffs this patch, do not expect melee supports to fall in priority. The Enchanter buffs, they're more placebo than anything else, and you're going to be best off spamming carry supports like Rakan, Zyra, Rel, Nautilus, Alistar, and so on for the time being. Allocating your ban towards one of Nautilus, Blitzcrank, or Rel is going to be great value for 13.16. To climb out of low elo the fastest from support, adding Heimer, Zyra, or Rel to your champion pool, it's a great idea. Alright, before we wrap this up, let's tell you a little more about SkillCapped. So we offer a 5-division rank up guarantee, and we think that's a pretty crazy thing to offer. It's kind of like a gym membership guaranteeing you'll get ripped. Your local gym, they'd go bust if they offered that, right? Not us. We've offered this for years because our service really does work. It works so well, in fact, that we're able to produce by far the largest catalog of premium league guides on the internet. We had over 20 videos a week with over 2,000 guides curated into over 270 courses. No one can compare. We've also sent challenger players into ELO hell over 1,100 times and counting, where they commentate how to carry live. They also respond to all questions asked. Sign up today for as little as $6.99 a month to improve fast and get the rank you've always wanted. Link in the description below. So that's going to wrap it all up for our 13.16 solo queue tier list. Thanks for watching, everyone. Good luck on the Rift, and we'll see you back here soon.